Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Today we talk PTR, because it appears we have 3 new friends in Oribus. So let's get into it. So every morning I wake up and I take off my little Wendigo onesie, my WoW onesie, and I go and make myself a little cup of coffee. While I'm doing that, I check out Wowhead. Probably not unlike most WoW fans. First thing you do, look at Wowhead, see what's new and what's going on. This morning, I find not only are they nerfing Tazavesh again for the umpteenth time, but they have added 3 new vendors. Season 4 raid vendors on PTR. The mind races. Does this mean we're getting maybe a new token or currency system? I kind of groan at that. I have enough. There's enough already, Blizz. Please stop the currencies that I can't use after a while. Think of it maybe like the BFA system we had, where you could purchase the Azerite armor you wanted. You gained the tokens, gained the currency, then you could purchase what you actually wanted. Are these 3 ads to do with a raid something like that? Or is it simply something added in PTR? We can go to each of the different raid vendors, we can talk to them, and gain items from that raid so that we can test them. Very similar to what they did with the Belt of Unity and also tier sets in the 9.2 PTR. So while I'm thinking about this, I take a little sip of coffee, and then I thought, with a deep sigh, this is going to be yet another clusterfuck, just like Tazavesh, but probably on a much grander scale. Now, for those that are unaware with what is coming in 9.2.5, all 3 of the Shadowlands raids are getting buffed. They're getting cranked up to Season 4 level. They'll all be a suitable challenge for us, and therefore all of the raids will be giving appropriate gear for Season 4. Now, there is a plus side to this. That means it's going to be far easier to gain your full set of heroic vaults, or hell, even your mythic vaults, because you're only going to need, that we know so far, to kill the first 3 bosses of each one, and hey, you have a full suite of mythic kills, having only killed the first 3 of each boss. Very nice. Personally, I've got no issue with that. If it gives a chance for players that maybe normally you do, I don't know, normal, or maybe you just do heroic, it might give you the incentive to go, hey, why don't we try out these raids? Why don't we go and give mythic a go and see whether we can do it? Or why don't we try and give heroic a go? Fantastic. I'm all for that. My worry is the ridiculous combination of loot we're about to have available to us. We are going to have all 3 of the raids available for Season 4. All of them with their loot tables. Add on top of that, we have M+, the loot table from there. Keep in mind that we have a number of new dungeons being added in Season 4. Now, I want to say, and I might be wrong on this, that Karazhan's being added, but I know definitely we got Mechagon, Junkyard, and Workshop being added, and we've also got 2 new WoD dungeons being added. That's a lot of loot tables being added that weren't planned for. And don't forget, then let's layer on top of this, like the icing on top of a huge bulging cake of blades and trinkets, we also have tier set. That's still going to be a thing. Then, and our final little sprinkling on top of this cake, our little hundreds and thousands, shall we say, is remember that if we were to sit down with Blizzard, we would give them a set of scales, and then give them 2 weights that were exactly the same. They still couldn't balance those scales.
He's out of line, but he's right.
Also, you'll be saying, Grim, did you forget corruption? Do you forget healers doing hundreds of thousands of DPS? Back in BFA? When Blizz just kind of said, fuck it, at the end of the expansion? It was kind of like, supposedly, Blizz going, just have some fun. We're at the end now. We're going to focus on what's to come. You just enjoy yourselves back in BFA. Still, it had to be some awkward, convoluted way of gaining it. Plus, they kept trying to balance it, and you would go and wait. You would wait for weeks, and you'd finally get your Gushing Wounds, or your Twilight Dev, where it may be, and then all of a sudden, Blizz would nerf it. And it's like, oh, no, you need to go and get this now. And that's on a couple of week cycle again. All I can see coming up in Season 4 is Blizzard constantly having to tune and balance things, wasting time that could be spent looking at 10.0 balance. So that maybe, crazily, we have something like class balance? is that something we could do? You're supposedly blowing the rulebook out the water with 10.0. It's going to be something different, something that the brand new WoW team can be really proud of, not bound by the rules that went before. So maybe for class balance, like, you don't even need to give me a new class. Like, don't bother with that. Just get the ones you've got, make them all work, fun, and interesting. How's that for an idea? But what's frustrating is that you could already see this happening. Before Season 4 has even started, you can see that there's going to be issues here with balancing. It is no different, it's why I mentioned Tazavesh at the very beginning. It's no different to Tazavesh on PTR. It was way too overtuned. Everybody that tried Tazavesh and the PTR said, wow, that's spicy and it's way too overtuned. Yet Blizzard didn't learn or didn't listen, which makes you question why there's a PTR in the first place. And what does it do? It costs them time and energy down the road. We see, as I said before, there are nerfs going for Tazavesh. They're having to balance something that they didn't really need to do. They could have looked at it on PTR, looked at the data and worked with that. Therefore, now they could be moving on to looking at their new dungeons that they're supposedly making for 10.0 and these sorts of things. Now, so far we've just talked about if these items drop. If you go and do the raid, these items drop, you try them out, and all of a sudden Blizzard start trying to tweak and change things. The worst situation is if these 3 ads that have been added into Oribus are actually merchants that will stay when 9.2.5 goes live. Will you be able to gain currency in the raids and therefore go and talk to these people and purchase the item that you want? I know for one, okay, I'm going to say this now. Good friend of mine that I played non-stop with on WoW, loved the, I want to say the Skulker's Wing. It was a trinket. It was a trinket you could get from Castle Nathria. Absolutely adored that trinket. And funny enough, only the other day, before all this was announced, he was like, oh, I wish I could have that back. That was a brilliant trinket. And lo and behold, he can now have that back. So what happens if he builds up his currency and he has enough currency to turn around and finally go to that merchant and go, hey, I want to buy the mythic level. I have so much of that currency, I want to buy the mythic level for that trinket. And then you feel great. You feel like, hey, all that time, all that effort I spent doing this, going over content I'd already done in the past is worth it because I got something I really valued. Only for Blizzard to say, oh, yeah, no, look, that shouldn't be that powerful. Yeah, like, look, we didn't know that you as players were going to only take the most powerful trinkets and items. Like, that's a complete shock to us. Like, you've been doing it since TBC, but we just didn't know. So unfortunately, we're going to have to nerf all these things now. And that player that sat there with this trinket or this weapon or whatever it may be just feels like a huge sense of wasted time. Like, why did I bother to do this? And even if they then go, okay, no, I'm going to go again, there's that item. In the back of their mind, they're thinking, you're just going to nerf it. I know that's good, and I know you're just going to nerf it again as soon as I actually manage to be able to get it. Because, realistically, that's when WoW's at its most frustrating, its most unrewarding. When you have pushed yourself as a player to try and get something, and all of a sudden that's rugs pulled underneath you, it's just not fun to play. It's like doing your best on a class that just doesn't perform. Doesn't matter what you do, it's not up there. You know, I'm thinking Elemental Shaman at the moment. You bust your ass in Elemental Shaman, you're still going to be, you know, middle of the pack. Demo Lock can fart, and they'll be top of the damage at the moment. But that is being nerfed as well, speaking of changes that are coming this week. Now, if Blizzard do intend, if they're like, look, we're just gonna open this up, have the raids, the dungeons, everything, just go crazy. We don't care. We're just not even gonna look at Season 4. We're going to focus on other things. And you want us running around with giant foam swords, hitting each other over the heads like hyperactive children? Then do it. But don't unleash crazy time. Don't let us start having fun doing crazy ass builds and then go, that's a little bit too much fun. Let's put a stop to that.
Down with this sort of thing. Careful now.
I like the idea of the dungeons and the raids coming back. I'm not trying to put a stop to that. And I've said before that I hope this isn't a permanent solution, but it's kind of one that they need to do for Shadowlands now to give us some content going forward so that they can focus on new things. Just don't start stamping your feet down, Blizz. when we start abusing all of these new toys you're going to give us, when we, the community, are already sat here going, we can see this is going to cause problems this far out from Season 4. Just don't call the fun police when we actually start enjoying ourselves. But that's enough from me. Thank you for watching, stay safe, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Laters on.